We have been steaming through the alphabet, right? Almost like a racehorse, like a nuclear-powered spacecraft or something. And thank you very much. And thank you. And we are now up to the letter Hey. Wow. Okay. Very good. So Hey is the 5th letter in the Hebrew alphabet, and we're gonna tuck right into it because we got a lot to cover today. The letter Hey is spelled like this. Okay? And the letter Hey, the sages tell us something fascinating. There are two worlds. There is the world, the spiritual world, the spirit world, so to speak, where we go after we pass away. And then there's this world, the physical world. Right? You look, yeah, right? Okay, good, yeah. So there's the spiritual world that we go to after we pass away, and there's the physical world that we live in right now. When God created these worlds, God created them with His name. God's got many names. And again, the reason why God has many names is because it doesn't refer to many different realities of God, but it refers to different realities that we can perceive of God interacting with us, right? So for example, a child would say, my daddy is angry, my daddy loves me, right? It doesn't mean that their daddy is different people. It just means that today this child is experiencing the love of their father, so they say, oh, my daddy loves me. And if they're experiencing anger from their father, they say, my daddy's angry, or my daddy's disappointed. It's all my daddy. It's just that the child, with his limited capacity, sort of relates to different aspects of his father and doesn't have that sort of adult's ability to get the fullness of the picture, the complexity of what a human being is, with all their emotions, the love and the anger and the disappointment and whatever it might be. The same thing for us and God. We cannot grasp the entirety of the complexity of God. God is infinite. But what we can grasp is little sort of experiences of how He relates to us, and that is what God's names are made up of. God's names are made up of the different experiences that we sort of experience God through our filters. The name Yah, Yud, and then Hey, which we would pronounce Ka because we don't like to pronounce God's name without it being necessary. So that name is described as the name that God used to create the entirety of the world. This world and the next world. If you look at source number 8 on your sheets, that's in your sheet, source number 8? Okay, good, yep. Ki beka Hashem tzor olamim. For, with His name, Ka, Yud, and then Hey, Hashem is the rock of the worlds. Hashem is the rock of the worlds. He created these worlds. He is the foundation of their existence. Not just that He created them, but in Judaism we believe something far greater than just that God created the world, but rather that God is continually recreating the world. Meaning the world is a constantly renewing experience. If you talk to physicists, like really high up physicists, they'll tell you, what we know is that this world is literally this constantly renewing situation in the sense that everything is whirring around so fast, and everything is, meaning this table, or this lectern, is not really a lectern. I don't know how to break it to you, but 99% of what this thing is air. Did you know that? It's a crazy fact, but it's a fact. 99%, if not more, of this thing is nothing. Right? But what happens is the two atoms come together, and they've got these whirring little circles of electrons, and they create sort of a force field, and it makes it hard for me to smash my way through it. But the reality is that if you would look at what percentage of this is actual mass, protons, neutrons, or electrons, and what percentage of this is void, the vast majority of this is void. And we also know that electrons, for example, are things that you can't really put your finger on, not just because they go so fast, but also because of the law of the uncertainty principle. I'm getting a little eyes glazed over here, but the reality is that everything is constantly whirring around, changing. It's a constant. This world is a constantly recreating reality.
Okay, you lost me at 99% air. I'm looking at hardwood made that comes from a tree. How is?
Right.
It's there. I'm not imagining it.
You're not imagining it, right? You're 100% not imagining it.
So,
and if you, first of all, this is injection molded plastic, but
whatever.
Right. I'm just saying. Let's talk about a tree. So a tree is made up of many different cells, right? That's the basic building block of all life, right? So a tree is made up of many cells. The cell is made up of many little organelles. The organelles are made up of many different molecules, and the molecules are made up of many different atoms. The atoms are made up of protons, electrons, and neutrons, and then also smaller things, quarks, leptons. But We'll stop with protons, neutrons, and electrons. So what you have is the center of every atom is a mass, a core, of protons and neutrons, right? Whirring around it are these electrons, okay? Now, if the protons and neutrons were, just to understand how much of an atom is empty space, if the protons and neutrons in the center of an atom were the size of a basketball, the electrons would be whirring around it about a mile away. That's how much space. That's the ratio in an atom of air, or void. It's not really air, it's void, to actual mass.
So does that mean the lectern is actually much larger than
No,
we
it's
see
actually
it?
much smaller, which means if we were to take out all the void, suck it out somehow, we would get a void terminator, called your local void exterminator, and he would come in, he could take this entire thing, and if you would just suck it down, like all the void out of it, and all you would have is just protons, neutrons, and electrons, they would be far smaller than a teaspoonful, this entire lectern.
Okay, now I understand.
But it's a wild thing. Think about that. Think about how wild creation is, right? The whole idea, by the way, and this really, to me, what's remarkable and amazing. I'm sorry, you set me off on a tangent. We're going there now. Okay, so where do you see, unfortunately, the greatest sort of concentration of atheists? In what fields? Science, exactly. And here's the crazy thing. Scientists are the ones who are coming face to face every day with the most absurdly crazy facts about our world. Like the one I just told you. Like the fact, for example, that just to have one chain of amino acids come together and work, right? Because amino acids work as like a lock and key model, right? But there's all these different parts. And in order for it to work on a single protein, it's got to be perfect. The shape has to be perfect. And then the protein chains fold based on their makeup. Okay, now, in order for a protein chain to work, for example, it has to be perfectly shaped, like a lock and key. Now, when you have a lock and key, let's look at, I have a key here, okay? So my key, it's got the etchings on the inside, so you can't really see it from here. But it's basically got a few centimeters of things, and it's got ups and downs. And when you put it in the car, it sees how many of the ups and downs are properly placed. And if it works, I turn it. So maybe there's 6 ups and downs over here, 6 bumps, right on a key, maybe 5, 6 bumps, okay? When you have a protein chain, it can be a small protein chain, it's 120 amino acids. Which means that in order for the key to work, all 120 of the particles on the proteins, the shapes, have to fit perfectly with whatever enzyme it's supposed to work on. So you're having a key, but instead of 6 little ups and downs, it's got 120 ups and downs. And there are proteins that are far larger, there are thousands. And they have to work perfectly. Now, how does a protein create itself? Well, there's a lot of different amino acids that it's going to be picking from. So imagine you have like a guy standing at a factory floor in a manufacturing facility, and he's got a parts bin, okay? And this huge sort of thing, and in the parts are all these different amino acids, okay? And he's going to say, okay, the first we're going to do is protease, and he starts putting them together. In order for them to work, they all have to be in perfect order, or the lock and key won't work. Now, you're taking stuff out of a parts bin that's got 20 parts, and you've got to get it in perfect order for a small, tiny little protein to work. Now, what's the probability that just sort of happened by itself? It just happened to, luckily, randomly fold into the exact right configuration. The numbers are absurd. If you do the mathematical analysis of what's the probability, like we know mathematical analysis, for example, what's the mathematical analysis of getting a double 6 when you go to, when you play dice? Not that any of you play dice. Theoretically, if any of you were a craps aficionado and spends all your weekends over at the MGM Grand Casino saying, yo, 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 and calling the 7-Elevens and whatever else you're playing. And maybe you're playing the double box cards, right? The 1 to 35 odds. So the casino pays at 1 to 35 because the probability of getting a double 6 is what? Anybody know? Any math people here? 1 in 36. So that's what they pay you, 1 in 35. The casino always has to have a little bit of an edge. Okay? So they pay 1 to 35 because the odds are 1 to 36. We know the odds of getting a double six. What are the odds of getting a triple six? So it's pretty simple. You do 36 times 6, which is about roughly 200, I think it's exactly 216. Okay.
No, it would have to end in a 6.
Yeah, exactly. 206. Very, very good. Okay, got it. What are the probabilities of getting, so if you're rolling 3 dice, the probability of getting a 6, 6, 6 is 216. If you use 4 dice, it goes up and becomes now somewhere around 1,200. 1 in 1,200 that you'll get it, and so on and so forth, right? Now, a dice only has 4 sides. When you're pulling proteins, you're pulling out of a bin of 20 different proteins, okay? And you have to do not just 1 spin, but 120 spins. So imagine you have a 20-sided dice, and you're throwing 120 of them, and they all have to come exactly in the right order. You're throwing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 120 dice that all have 20 sides, okay? And they all have to land perfectly on the right spot in order for this protein to work. What's the probability of that happening? It's in the quadrillions. Not quadrillions is nothing. Quadrillion just means 4. Like, no, the number is so high, just to give you an idea of how great the number is, that the probability of a protein randomly folding into the right order or the right configuration, just a small protein, 120 pieces, right? 120 amino acids. The probability of that happening for one small protein is far greater than the number of all the atoms in the universe. So if you take all the atoms in the universe, it's like 65 with like, so it's like 65 zeros after it, something like that, or 60 zeros, so it's like a 1 with 60 zeros after it. That's how many atoms there are in the universe. Not in planet Earth, in the universe with the billions and trillions of stars. Add up all the atoms, tiny little atoms, and you get a number, which is like 1 with 60 zeros after it, or something like that. The probability of getting one correct configuration of amino acids with 120 pieces only is far greater a number than that. And that's only one small protein, and our body has so many proteins, some of them much, much longer than 120.
So then how can scientists be atheists? Because how do
exactly
they explain the probability factor? It has to be a greater power that...
Okay, so me and you are exactly on the same page. Thank you. Me and you are exactly on the same page. However, I'll tell you the way I believe, and this is my personal belief, and we can talk about, you're welcome to disagree. My personal belief is there's a very big difference between when you shoot an arrow at a target, or when you put an arrow into a tree and then make a target around it. Okay, what do I mean by that? The Talmud says the following. We're totally off topic again. I love it. You guys are awesome. Thanks for indulging me. Let's first pause for a word from our sponsors. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'hakol niyeh b'dvaro.
Amen.
Okay. The Talmud says, Lo polchu Yisrael la'avodah zara, elo lahatir lahem arayos, which means the only reason why the Jewish people served idols was in order to allow themselves to engage in illicit, immoral, sexual activity. Okay, what does that mean? What does serving an idol have to do with illicit activity? The answer is very simple. If I engage in immoral activities, I'm going to have a very guilty conscience. And I don't like guilty consciences. None of us do. We all hate guilty consciences, which means that probably explains why you and me have in our lives created a million rationalizations for all the things that we've done wrong almost. There's very few times we just say, yep, 100%, I'm 1,000% wrong, I'm just doing it anyway. It's a rare occurrence. It happens, we'll do it sometimes. And sometimes that is our rationalization. Yeah, at least I'm big enough to admit that I'm doing it wrong. That is our rationalization in itself, right? But the reality is we don't like to be really bad people. No one wants to walk around feeling they're a bad person. There's a whole story. If you read Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, right in the beginning, he writes an article there about this mobster named like Two Gun Johnny or something like that. I mean, that was his name, Two Gun. This guy was so horrible. He was once in his car sitting, necking with his girlfriend, and police came over and just said, hey, what are you guys doing? You're middle of the road over here, whatever it is. And this Two Gun Johnny, or whatever, his name was Two Gun something, maybe it was Two Gun Petey or Smokey or whatever his name was. He jumped out of his car with 2 guns right? He had to earn his namesake. And he just started pumping bullets into this policeman, killed the guy, shooting dozens of bullets into him, or at least a dozen, and just for the sole reason of the guy knocked on his window when he was in the middle of kissing his girlfriend and said, hey, like, what are you guys doing? You're in a public place over here. This guy, at the end of his life, well, actually, right before he was captured, he was having a shootout with New York City police. He was somehow found that he was holed up in an apartment in New York City. They have this massive shootout. You got policemen on roofs shooting into the apartment, and he's shooting back at them. Now, mind you, there's almost zero probability he's going to get out of this without getting either captured or dead, right? When you've got like 30 policemen on roofs and then your stairwells, what's your game plan? You only have guns. You don't have a nuclear bomb or something. There's actually no way you're going to either get out of here, A, alive, or B, uncaptured. It's not going to happen. There's 100 of them to you. But he's shooting at them, trying to kill them. And they're family people. These cops they're people. They have families. And yet what does he write? He's sitting there. He wants to write his sort of manifesto to the world. So they are behind the couch, shooting at family men when he's going to be captured anyway. Trying to kill other people when he's going to be captured anyway. He writes, under my coat lies a weary and heavy heart. I would never hurt a soul. Absurd. But Dale Carnegie correctly identifies this as an example that human beings just don't want to believe that they're bad. Right? If you would ask Al Capone, are you a mobster? He would say, what? Me? A mobster? I'm the protector of my entire community. Do you know how many jobs I give people? Do you know how much protection I offer to my community? Making sure no one else comes in here and does any crime. In businesses, I offer them protection. I'm a businessman who's taking care of my community. That's what he would tell you. And I'm serious 100% about that. We don't like to believe that we're bad. No one wants to believe that they're bad. So, therefore, if I want to do something that's illicit, it's not appropriate, and I'm a Jew, and God says all over the Torah, do not act in an illicit and immoral way. Well, there's a couple of choices here. I could do it and then just feel really bad. Or what I could do is join a different religion. Some religion that actually allows for this behavior. And then I'm totally cool. Right? Oh yeah, no, I just joined this new philosophy religion called hedonism. And we celebrate wanton experiencing of all our pleasures with no stopping. And you write books about why humans should be hedonists or whatever it is. Or I join a new religion. And my religion allows this. I'm not a bad person. I'm just not the same religion as you. Big deal. You think your religion is right and mine is wrong? Who says? I'll bring you proof. My religion, your religion. They're all equally valid. Hence the Talmud says, the reason why the Jews served idols is to allow themselves to serve, to engage in illicit, immoral activity. Same thing goes for scientists. Let's imagine you are a guy like Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking was born, with a lot of deformities and a lot of medical challenges. He married a wonderful young woman who took care of him and loved him despite all the challenges and the difficulties. And then he left his wife for a girl, his secretary, younger woman. And remember, he's a man who barely has almost any control of his faculties. Like, meaning, in terms of what you would think that would be like, meaning his sexual drive has got to be pretty low compared. I mean, whatever. Obviously, that's not low, but I'm saying, like, meaning it's not like he's able to perform, but he left his wife, who took care of him in his illness, for a younger, prettier girl. Now, if you believe in a God, it's not very great what you just did. It's pretty bad. But here's your solution. I don't believe in a God. I'm an atheist. I even believe in evolution, which means that we came from the apes. And in the ape kingdom, the animals in the survival of the fittest are always looking for younger, more powerful or potent females to continue their offspring or whatever it is. That's ingrained in our psyche for millions and billions of years.
You don't have to believe in God to be a mensch.
I didn't say that. Hold on, wait, let me just finish up over here. I didn't say that. I didn't say you have to believe in God to be a mensch. However, I said if you don't want to be a mensch, you're better off not believing in a God. or believing in a God that allows for all kinds of crazy behavior, which that is a little bit irrational in today's day and age. So instead, we just believe that we're all just these sort of monkeys bumping around that happen to get human character traits, or human bodies or whatever it is, because we got lucky on the cosmic scale or whatever we say. And then I don't really gotta feel so bad. I don't gotta worry that there's a world to come, right? Because if I'm worried that there's a world to come, then if I know there's a world to come, it's much more real and it's gonna go on for eternity. Everything I do here in this world is really, really important, and I better start acting better. But if I say, I don't believe in a world to come, there's no spiritual world, I'm an atheist. Once I die, just turn me into ash and flour, put it over my flowers, because that's the most utility I can add to the world after I'm dead. There's no continuity. Then whatever I do here in this world is not that meaningful. So what I'm saying is that there's been for all of history an incredibly strong desire to not believe in a proper moral God, because it doesn't allow us to feel comfortable with what we're doing wrong. Now, so scientists live in a space where they are the kings of the castle, so to speak, in the sense that we have enormous regard for science in our world. The scientist has almost sort of become like the preeminent scholar in the world, and he has this amazing place where sort of he goes out and pronounces this is this, and then we all sort of, oh wow, I didn't know that was that. And I don't want to give that up. I don't want to give that up to like some God that I'm just like a small fry and there's a much greater infinite power out there. So even if I'm not doing anything illicit, even just for my own sake, I don't want to have to believe in a God, because that means I'm a little guy. I'd rather be the main guy. Okay, go ahead.
I still say that even if you don't have a code, or you don't believe in a higher being, or you don't think there's a hereafter, whatever, you still have feelings for people.
Hopefully, yeah, of course, unless you're a sociopath.
You do. I mean, you have emotions, you have feelings, you're hurting someone. You feel bad just because you hurt someone, and it has nothing to do with God. It has to do with...
Well, I do feel bad unless I create, again, and I'm going to feel bad if I hurt someone no matter what, hopefully, but people are hurting people all the time, right? That's a reality. So we all create, again, let's go back to our principles. We know that human beings don't want to feel bad and too guilty. We're going to feel guilty when we do things wrong, especially after we do them. Before we do them, we have billions of rationalizations. After we do them is when the guilt starts setting in. But I want to minimize my guilt. So if I can convince myself that I'm just a highly evolved monkey, and that for billions of years, monkeys have been following this thing where we're always looking for a more fertile partner. That's what we do for survival of the fittest. I don't feel as bad. I still feel bad a little bit if I see my ex-wife, but I don't feel as bad because I'm just doing what I'm programmed to do. I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of, if you look at pure Freudism.
I can't help myself.
Pure Freudian philosophy is that basically by the time you're 5 years old, you're done. You've created your entire self, and that the rest of your life you're just acting out on subconscious drives that are so strong and so powerful you don't even recognize them, and they're overwhelmingly powerful. You have no choice. There's a whole debate right now raging in science about whether or not you have free will. There was a whole article in the Atlantic magazine a few months ago saying, we already have established that there's no free will, or at least that's what they believe. The question is, should we let people know about it? Because we know for sure from studies that when people find out that there's no free will, they act in a worse manner. People who don't believe in a God, in a religious reality, in a free will choice, and moral choices, when they believe that we have no free will, they end up acting worse, which is kind of weird. Because if you don't believe in free will, you should be acting the same whether you know about no free will. But you could say that actual piece of knowledge, whether you know about free will or not, is what's interacting over here and changing the scale. But we know for sure from studies that people who believe there's no free will act like the same people. If they're taught that there's no free will, they act in a worse way. They allow themselves a lot more things. If I believe there's no free will, why shouldn't I steal from somebody? It's not me. You think it's me doing it?
Me.
Exactly. I can't help it. I have no free will. Which, by the way, if you want to go back to cosmic, the whole Yetzias Mitzrayim, the exodus from Egypt, on a really deep level, what it really represented was the Egyptians worshiped the sun. The sun is the same all the time. All the time. Doesn't change. The moon waxes and wanes. The first mitzvah the Jewish people were ever given was don't follow the Egyptian solar calendar. follow the lunar calendar. That was the first mitzvah. And you're like, really? That's the first mitzvah? That's like kind of weird. For Judaism, it could be Shabbos and kosher and Pesach and so many other laws. Why is the very first mitzvah to follow the lunar calendar? Because it's symbolic of rejecting everything the Egyptians were about. Don't believe that you are, who you will be forever and ever. That's how the entire Egyptian society worked. If you were born a pharaoh, you were a pharaoh and you could do no wrong. If you were born a peasant or a slave, you were a slave and you could do no right. No matter what, you would never get out of being a slave, and your children wouldn't, your grandchildren wouldn't. There was no mobility in that community, and that created a very stable environment, mind you, but also a very wicked one. The Egyptians wanted people to believe you don't have free will. You just do what you do. That's why they worship the sheep. The sheep is an animal, just plods along, following the leader, doesn't care. There's a story in Turkey where over 1,500 sheep walked off a cliff because the leader sheep walked off the cliff. I don't think, I can't help it, just do it, just walk off the cliff. So the Egyptian society wanted people to believe that they didn't have free will. Today's scientific community is claiming the exact same thing from a totally different perspective. Saying that we don't have free will as human beings. And the most fundamental and important part of Judaism is that you do have free will, and there are correct moral choices, and there are incorrect moral choices. And don't ascribe to a philosophy that, oh, everything is okay, and everything's true, and all beliefs are equally good. No, that's not true. That's not true. But when I do believe that, I don't feel a lot of guilt. I left my wife. All right, you think I really have free will? I've been pre-programmed to do that for billions of years. Of apes trying to find the most fertile partners so that they can propagate the species, which is the evolutionary drive of every single organism on this planet. I don't even know why I'm staying with my second wife. Or third, or fourth. I can't help it. That's human. I'm only human. That's what people say all the time. I'm only human. You're only human. That's the greatest thing you can be on this planet. A human being infused with a neshama that has the ability for free will. You're right. The orangutan does not have free will. If you were an orangutan, if you were saying I'm only an orangutan, then you're right. And that's, by the way, why they like to say that. That's the whole evolutionary belief. I am an orangutan. Just one wearing a suit. So when we create a reality, what's up?
Well, wait, what about evolution? The scientists believe in evolution. An ape is an unevolved human being.
Okay, so let me just say this. There's two kinds of evolution. Evolution just means change over time.
Of course. It
right?
Evolved.
Okay. What?
It evolved.
What evolved?
Evolution.
Oh, exactly. So, meaning, there's a question about how do things change? How do things develop in a world where there's only monkeys and suddenly there's human beings? So you can either believe that it's just all random chance, just it all happened. Or you could believe there was a God guiding this change over time, creating new realities for the world as the world scales up. If you actually follow the evolutionary timeline of planet Earth, you'll see that it literally follows the 6 days of creation. I mean, it's uncanny. First is the first day of creation is Big Bang, right? What's that? An explosion of light. What does it say in our Torah happened? By He let there be light, and there was light, right? I mean, there's amazing things out there. So, I believe that scientists and many other people today, there was this whole article I was telling you about in the Atlantic magazine. It was saying, we believe as scientists that there's no free will, but should we let the people know? First of all, just listen to the arrogance and the hubris. It's like, we, the scientists, the people who are safe with even the greatest secrets of life, we know there's no free will, but should we let the regular people know? It might be very dangerous in the hands of the regular people. So there's a rabbi from New Jersey who wrote into the Atlantic magazine, and it got published. It was such a short little comment. It was such a slap in their face. It was such a brilliant retort. He wrote back to the letters to the editor. He wrote, "Please tell Professor whatever, let's say his name is Bob Feldman, who was saying there's no free will, but should we let the world know? Please tell Professor Bob Feldman not to be so worried about whether or not he should let people know. It's already been decided. If you believe there's no free will, what are you sitting here talking? Should we let people know or should we not? It's already been decided whether you're going to let people know or not." Brilliant, brilliant answer. But the reality is, if I want to do whatever I want to do in this world and not feel guilty, which is what most people want to do, I should very much not want to believe in a God. I should very much want to believe that we just evolved from nothingness, that there was nothing in this world, nothing living, and suddenly life appeared and it's evolved, and we came from being, just an explosion of light to being this right here, injection molded plastic, and human beings with a wool suit, which comes from a sheep, and the ability to speak, and clothes, everything we have, the water, H2O, electronics. Again, no one says electronics evolved. They were created by human beings. But the point is, all the things that we have in this world, the crazy miracles. So the scientists who come most in touch with the overwhelming proof of God's existence are the ones who most overwhelmingly reject it and deny it. It would totally topple them from the platform they're on right now. This sort of amazing, exalted beings that know all the truths and everyone looks up to, and they have to decide, should we let the people know about this right now or not?
The unwashed masses.
Okay, exactly, the unwashed masses. Very good. So, wow, how did we get here? Okay.
It's okay that we got there.
So, the reality is that God created this infinitely complex world, so complex, with the name Yud and Hey. This world He created with the Hey, and the next world He created with the Yud. The letter Yud is an amazing letter because, let's look at this letter Yud over here. I'm going to take away half of it. What letter is it now? The Yud, right?
You got to shorten them.
Okay, let me take away another half of it. What's left? Is there a Yud over there? There's still a Yud. Yeah, you can't see it probably, but another half, another half. As long as it's a Yud is a speck. The spiritual world is represented by the Yud because the spiritual world doesn't take up any space. It's not a physical place. So it's represented by the smallest possible speck that you can have, which is the letter Yud, right? And obviously you can make the letter Yud and make it look nice with crowns, or you can make it look like in the Sefer Torah, Yud would be a much bigger letter, or it would have like this. It would look something like this, But the letter Yud in reality is just doop, or half that, doop, half that, right? That's why the spiritual world is represented by the Yud, because it's not really a physical place at all, but it's got to be represented, so take the smallest little speck. This world is represented by the Hey. What sound does the Hey make? Now, I've got to be honest with you, while we were sitting here today, or you guys were sitting, I'm standing, I wish you guys would stop talking during my lecture. Yeah, you. Every one of you. You guys have been saying the letter Hey the entire time. I keep hearing it. It's overwhelming. Will you all please be quiet? No, I'm kidding. The letter Hey is the easiest letter to pronounce. We pronounce it all the time, just by breathing. For God is infinite. For an infinite being to create a complex universe where the wood is not wood and the table is not a table, but it's all these tiny little elements whirring around with massive amounts of void and vacuum, and there's dark matter. I could go on for months and months and months about the wonders of creation. And all the proteins we described, how incredibly amazing are proteins. This perfect locks and keys that have hundreds of folds, and they still somehow manage to get all the right components in order and create this perfect system. And there's so many proteins and enzymes controlling our body right now. It's unreal what's going on inside of me. As it says, Mi besari echze Eloka, from my flesh, I see godliness. Just looking at your body, what's going on in there. How many miles and miles of waterways, of canals and systems. Do you know that if you were to take the capillaries, right, which are the tiny little veins, and your veins and your arteries, and you were to lay them out end to end, you could go around the entire world more than twice, almost 3 times. Just from the blood vessels in your body. Look at your heart. It just beats. It's like an engine for a car, but one that runs for 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, sometimes 100 years without ever breaking down. Some people have heart attacks, it's true. But many people don't in their entire life. There are people who lived 100 years and didn't have a heart attack. Can you name me any machine on this planet that's anywhere near as efficient and works? This thing is pumping 24 hours a day, working hard, and it's got to pump stuff all over 60,000 miles plus of canals and waterways, and send stuff all over, and it's just sitting there pumping for over 100 years without ever once being shut down for maintenance. There's nothing nothing like this in the universe. It's so complex. From my flesh, I see God. But yet, if you're an infinite God, creating infinite complexity is very easy. If you're a human being, a limited human being, then creating anything that's complex becomes, the more complex it gets, the harder it gets. Right? I'll give you an example. They have computer networks that try to figure stuff out. For example, they're trying to figure out, under the skies and analyze data that's being streamed in from satellites all over the world. There's a lot of work to do, a lot of computing power needed. So they have obviously places that have these massive supercomputers with thousands of computers just linked to each other, making a huge supercomputer. They also do something where they use, you can use your computer. You can elect that your computer, when you're not using it, the computing power should be working behind the scenes to help analyze data on stars coming in or whatever it is. Now, let's say you're trying to figure out 12 times 4. Okay, you feed it into your computer God has it in a second. 12 times 4, right? 48. Let's say you are trying to get a much more complex mathematical question. You need maybe a stronger computer. And the more complex it gets, right, the stronger the computer you need. Eventually, you need more computers and more computers and more computers. And the more complex things get, the more computers you need. If you are an infinite being, you have infinite computers, which means that any problem is as hard as 12 times 4. You understand what I'm saying? Meaning, let's imagine 12 times 4 on the scale of 1 to a billion is a 1. It's so easy. A billion, a question, a mathematical equation that's a billion, difficulty, you would need a lot of computers, millions of computers for it. But if you had billions of computers, right, then that mathematical equation becomes as easy as 12 times 4 for your computer. You get what I'm saying? For God is infinite. He can create the most infinite complexity with as little difficulty as the easiest letter in the world to make. Ki b'ka Hashem tzor olamin. With the letters Yud and Hey, God creates the two worlds. The Yud is the spiritual world. The Hey is the infinitely complex physical world, which God creates with the easiness of a Hey. We see this also in another verse. Source number 9 in the book of Psalms. Bidvar Hashem shamayim nasu, uberuach piv kol tzavam. By the word of Hashem the heavens were made, and with the breath of his mouth all their hosts. We see here the same concept. What sound does the breath of the mouth make? A Hey. God created the world. It's so easy. It's like just a letter Hey rolling off of his mouth, so to speak. Okay. And further, we see one more example of that where we see sources indicating sort of that God created the world with a Hey, is Genesis 2:1. Elu todos shamayim v'aretz behi baram. These are the products of the heavens and the earth when they were created, which the sages say, don't read it behi baram, rather read it behei baram. With the letter Hey, he created them. Okay, so why the letter Hey? First of all, the letter Hey, as we said before, is the easiest sound. You guys have been making it so nicely this entire time. But also, the letter Hey has some very important representations. Number 1, it's got a huge void at the bottom. It is very hard to stay in the Hey. It's so easy to fall out, right? Which is like our world. It is so easy to fall out in this world and make improper moral choices. However, the Hey also has an opening over here, which means that you can climb back into the top through a process called teshuvah, repentance, which means we can make the greatest of errors and we can repent and come back in at the top. The next world, one of the letters that the next world is represented by is the letter Ches. The letter Ches, which is 8, transcendence, looks like this. It's exactly like the Hey, but it's closed off because there's no climbing back in once you're in the next world. Wherever you got to in this world is where you get to go, and you can't climb back in. There's no more process of repentance. This world is very open. It's the letter Hey. We have the ability to climb back in. We see this in one of the first verses in Genesis, when we talk about the first homicide ever, the whole story with Cain and Abel. Cain brings a subpar sacrifice. He's like, I'll give God something, but I'm not going to give him my best stuff. I'll give him like my day-old stuff that I got for on sale at the bakery. I just kind of want God to give me what I want, but like I don't want to give him what I want, right? So, and then Abel says, I want to give God what I want. I'm going to give him the best of my stuff. And God says, I'm going to take Abel's sacrifice and not Cain. So Cain's very angry. And God says he's very jealous of his brother. So God says to him, what's your problem? Like, why are you so depressed? You made a mistake? Okay, big deal. And he says the following verse. Halo im seitiv se'es. If you make it better, right, you'll be lifted up. You'll be forgiven. You'll be lifted up. You'll come back in at the top. However, if lo seitiv, if you do not make it better, la pesach chatas rovetz, sin is lying at the entrance. Ve'elecha teshukaso, and it all it desires to bring you down. Ba'atatim shobal, but you can overrule it. This world, if we don't learn how to overcome our urges, every time we walk out of our door, forget that, every time we're in our house, we're getting text messages and emails, and there's gossip flying around the net, you know what I'm saying? And we can just, oh yeah, do a picture, post a picture, an unflattering picture of someone, whatever it is. There's so many ways to fall at the bottom. But you can rule over it. That's why this letter, hey, has this big drop at the bottom. Also, the letter hey points to all four directions, right? Well, last time we met, we talked about the idea of four, representing sort of the four directions of the world, the four physical directions. But it's counterbalanced with the spiritual, with the yud. Okay? The hey is the physical, the four dimensions of the physical world, counterbalanced by the spiritual world, which is what you're supposed to have. That's a healthy world, living in this world. The next world is only a yud. It's only the spiritual. It doesn't have any physical components, so it's just a yud. But the letter hey, which is the physical one, actually has the letter yud in it. Because a healthy, normal physical world in this existence includes a spiritual component. If you take away the spiritual component, then you get back to a dal, a dalet. Remember, we spoke about last time, the word dal means a poor person. If you have a physical existence without any spirituality, you're poor. Oh, I want to bring something up. Here we go. Back to the question we were talking about earlier. This is a little bit of a detour, but we're really good at that over here. You guys are amazing. By the way, I gotta say, you guys are some of the most amazing detour folks I know. Like, I just feel very comfortable with you guys, going all over the place.
Detour,
Detour.
Detour.
Yeah.
So I have a question that's gonna set you up.
All right. Lob it over the plate, but give me 1 second. I met with a guy on Tuesday, I think, of this week. And we were talking, maybe Monday, Monday or Tuesday. And we were just catching up, so when I learn with people, usually I first catch up with them, what's going on, how you doing, da-da-da-da-da. So, he was telling me about Thanksgiving dinner with his family. So, he had a nice, large Thanksgiving dinner. There was, he's one of three siblings. All the three siblings were there. Two of them are married with their wives and children, and one of them is a bachelor, a lifelong bachelor, and his parents were there, and one of the wives had some family there as well. And they did that at a beautiful American dinner. They had all the food out on the table, and everyone's sitting around the table. They put away their phones, hopefully, or whatever it is, and they go around the table, and everyone's supposed to say what they're thankful for. And he said he's sitting there, and he was, I guess, at the end, because it was his house, he was hosting, so I guess they went around, and he was maybe the last person to speak. So I started noticing, and I'm focusing on it more and more and more as the table goes around. We went around my entire family. There's a Jewish family that goes to synagogue on Rosh Hashanah and Kippur and everything. Not a single person at the table said, I'm thankful to God. Not a single person. I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful for getting to the right college. I'm thankful for my amazing family. I'm thankful for the fact that we have a comfortable existence. We do well. I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful for that. Not a single person at the table said, I'm thankful for God. And he said, I'll tell you the truth. When it finally came to me, I almost didn't want to say it. I was almost uncomfortable. It's like taboo. You're going to bring in the God word? What's wrong with that guy? Why did he say the G word at the table? He said it was really uncomfortable because he feels like everyone else is sort of doing this, I'm thankful for good grades. I'm thankful for the great weather. I'm thankful the Lions won today. I'm thankful, and now he's going to come and be like, well, I'm thankful to God for giving me all this amazing blessings in my life. Which is, by the way, what Thanksgiving was originally. The Puritans were definitely very religious people. And by the way the Puritans thanked God was by fasting and praying. The Thanksgiving feast that we all have has got nothing to do with, they used to have something called a Thanksgiving. But the Thanksgiving was fasting and praying to God. They did have a feast with the Indians to celebrate the harvest. It was like more of like a sort of a celebratory meal, but it was not called Thanksgiving at all. The Puritans had a different Thanksgiving practice, which was fasting and praying to God. In any case, he said, but he did say it at the end. He said, I said, I'm thankful to God for all the blessings he's bestowed upon my life. But he said, but why did no one in my family say thanks to God? Not a single person out of the 20 people who went. He wanted to know why. No. Well, maybe they don't think about God. That's true. Yes. Sorry, not no. But I think it's deeper than that. I was sitting down. I met with a new guy. You know, I learn with various people, and I'm engaged with a lot of people throughout the community and throughout the week, whatever it is. So I met with a new guy recently that I'd never met with before. He was searching for some meaning in life. And his friend said, why don't you meet with me? I'm meeting with Rabbi Burnham on Thursday. Why don't you come and meet with us? So he says, fine. He comes over. He's a new guy, really nice guy. This guy does absurdly well. I don't want to say what business he's in, but he has a business that he got into a couple years ago, maybe 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And he's got a bunch of them all over the country. And they I can't say they run themselves, but he's got good management teams in place. He visits each one of his places about once every month or 2 months. And he has businesses that each one of them is bringing in somewhere between 500,000 and 1.5 million. So he's making money, we're talking about hand over fist, in a ridiculous manner, and it's not even that hard. And he does the whole yoga and all that. And he says to me, he says, I'm very, very thankful. I said, thankful to who? He's like, no, I'm very thankful. I said, thankful to who? Who are you thankful to? What does that mean, I'm thankful? Who are you thankful to? Like, who are you appreciate? Like, when you say thanks to someone did you a favor, right? You come over, you bring me a glass of water, I say thank you, right? I'm being thankful to you. You helped me out. Who are you thankful to? Very uncomfortable question for him. People love to say they're thankful. I love to say I'm thankful. Sounds good. But I don't exactly like to say who I'm thankful to, because when I'm thankful to someone, I'm indebted to them. Right? Are you guys with me? When I say thankful to someone, it shows that they did something for me. I kind of owe them. If anything, just a debt of gratitude. What do we call when you owe someone things? A debt of gratitude. I owe them something. The easiest thing to owe them is just to thank you, right? That's often all that I owe them. Right? If someone asks them, can you do me a favor, can you bring me a cup of water? They bring me a cup of water. I don't need to write them a thank you note. It's okay. All I need to do is just say, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's all I need to say. But I owe them a debt of gratitude. We don't like to owe people anything. You don't like to owe people. You ever meet people? No, please don't give me any gifts. I don't want any gifts. I'll take care of everything myself. And don't help me. There's people who will not allow others to help them. Why? They don't want to feel indebted to anyone. I got it all taken care of. I'm a self-made man. They don't want to feel indebted to anyone. Of course, that's a sad thing, because this world thrives on people helping each other out and being indebted to other people and filling the debt and paying it forward and all that. It's sad when you cannot open yourself up to the vulnerability of owing somebody. What's love? Right? I once wrote this. We were scrawling just phrases on a board, and I wrote, the doorway to love is vulnerability. You can only achieve love by being vulnerable and opening yourself up to someone, right? Allowing them to do for you, doing for them, putting yourself out there. Are they going to reciprocate? I don't know. But it's the only way I'm ever going to see love is by trying, right? The point is that we love to say that we're thankful, but who are we thankful to? Who do we owe our debt of gratitude to? I don't want to say God, because then I actually owe God something. If I say thank you to God, I'm indicating that I owe him. He hooked me up. And if he hooked me up, I owe him something. I don't want to owe God anything. I don't want to think about God at all, except for twice a year when I go to services on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Whoa, hold on. All right, we're going to get to you. Hold on.
No, not before you.
You just got to. I want you to respond. Trust me. I want you to think.
Okay, let's just remember the word blessing.
Okay. Now, so the point is, and that was sort of, and this goes back to the whole science thing, right? Meaning, a scientist doesn't want to recognize God because then he's the small guy and he owes everything he has to God. And even a regular family that may be sitting around a table, they're all good people. I know this family, by the way. This family is filled with the nicest of people. Truly, truly, I'm telling you this. I mean, they are the nicest, sweetest people, almost the nicest, sweetest people that I know. I'm not even kidding. I see their father all the time. I say, how did you raise these kids? How did you raise such amazing mensches? They're amazing people. But that being said, if they're not living a very actively God-oriented life, I don't want to say thanks to God, because then I kind of admit that I owe something to God. And then maybe my life is not really being lived exactly as it should be lived. So let's leave God out of the picture. I'm thankful for the good weather. One of them, I said, well, this guy who's making all this money, he's making ridiculous money. I said, who are you thankful to? So he's like, well, just the like overall earth power force. I'm like, oh, so what do you do to show your appreciation? Well, what am I going to give to the earth power force? Yeah, see, it's very easy to be thankful to the earth power force, cosmic karma, whatever, because there's no way to pay that back. But if I'm thankful to God, then I got to be praying and talking to God and saying thank you on a regular basis, which are blessings. Blessings are saying thank you to God for the food that I eat or the things that He gave me in my life. And then I got to start maybe giving back, because if God invested in me all these blessings, maybe He's giving it to me because He wants me to pay it forward and give it up to others and help other people. But if I'm not doing that, I want to be thankful because it's a good word, positive association word, right? Thankful is a green word, angry is a red word, right? There's good, positive, warm words. I want to be thankful. I just don't want to be thankful to anyone specific that will cost me anything. And by the way, studies show, unquestionably, that people who believe in God give more charity significantly than people who don't. Because they're recognizing, I'm getting my gifts from God. There's a certain sense of debt and gratitude that you have to give back. Okay, I'm going to go to you, and then
I'm going to not ask the question that you might not want to hear today. I'm going to say something else, though. Don't you think this is a temporary situation in our universe, because things go up and down like a pendulum and change? Because I know our ancestors would walk around, Gott sei Dank, and talk to God. Don't you think that things come and go like this?
100%. Yeah, I do. I think that we happen to be living in a
very vacuous, immoral period.
We're living in a period of great lack of godliness in the world, and yes, I believe things do go in waves. So there may be a period coming soon that will be a shift, change back. Yeah, I agree.
A paradigm, yes, because nothing has any consequence in society today.
Yeah.
But the other question I'm going to hold back on, because you may not like it.
Okay, and now let's go for you. You had a question?
Yeah, had you probed in a slightly different way, you might have gotten, I don't know, maybe not, but gratitude and thankfulness are the same thing. Yes?
Yeah.
Would you label the things that he is thankful for as blessings? Blessings for a parnassah, blessings for a beautiful family, blessings for whatever he's thankful for. If you use the word blessings, that injects a deity.
Not necessarily.
Oh,
no.
I think so.
Well, because there are millions of people out there who would say,
it's a blessing.
Again,
but it's a blessing.
First of all, the language of blessing generally is used in a more religious setting. You're 100% right. But definitely there are people who will say, I live a blessed life, although they're atheists. The people could say that. But yeah, sometimes
atheists would say
Again, the language. You're right. The language of blessing is usually a language that is more found in the God-oriented people. But that being said, I mean, whatever. The bottom line is he used the word thankful, and I was challenging him to say, who are you thankful to? And he couldn't really come up with someone. And that's, by the way, why? That's why people who are thankful to God are more likely to give more charity. You have someone that you're orienting your thanks to. Just saying I'm thankful, what does it mean to be thankful? There's no debt of gratitude there.
You'll turn them around.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it is now the witching hour of 1 o'clock, or actually even a little bit later. You guys are awesome. You guys have been amazing. I think I'm done for like a month here. So maybe we'll continue this after we get back, and maybe we'll even cover the letters Vav, Zayin, Ches.